Hello everyone, this is Lutfur, the course coordinator of GSBS 6002 WebLearn. Hope all of you are doing good and you must be very busy with your assignment too. Uh, as usual, I have received some typical questions from you relating to this assignment, and the purpose of this video is to answer these questions, and I believe that it will help you preparing your assignment. First of all of you know that your assignment is due in about 2 weeks' time. So it's due on 12 November, Sunday. And you have 5 questions to answer based on the case study of Visa Incorporated. I found that some of you are struggling, particularly with question number 1 and question number 2. So I would like to make a little more clarification about these 2 questions. So first question is the number of card fraud experience the same across gender? This question is a little bit tricky because in the questionnaire, if you can see, our question 1 is whether experience card fraud in last 12 months. Question 2 and 3 are number of times experience card fraud. So since question number 1 is number of card fraud experience, so what I believe is, first of all, you need to get rid of the respondents who didn't experience any card fraud. Okay, so you get rid of them, then you have the subsample who have only experienced card fraud. Then you need to divide them on the basis of the gender and then compare the average number of card fraud experienced by the males and females. You should consider all possible alternatives, for example, online, offline, total. Okay. The second question is almost similar. Are there differences across the age groups regarding card fraud? So in the same way, you should first get rid of the respondents who didn't experience any card fraud. So you emphasize or you focus on only those who have experienced card fraud. Then you need to segregate them on the basis of different age groups and compare the average number of card frauds experienced by different age groups. Question number 3 is you need to compare the average response time with an acceptable limit. So, and question number 4 is you basically need to compare average number of card fraud both online and offline. And finally, question number 5 is you need to find out that whether response time, level of advice, and level of communication, these 3 factors are statistically significantly related to overall satisfaction with regard to card fraud or not. So for each of these questions, you need to set a hypothesis, both null and alternate hypothesis. Then you need to take a particular hypothesis testing procedure, for example, t-test, ANOVA, correlation, regression, chi-square test. You need to test the hypothesis, then derive the result and interpret the result. That in summary you are expected to do. So this is the questionnaire. Some of you are asking that whether you need to repeat this question in your research design section. Actually you don't. Since you already have the questions given, you don't need to repeat them in the questionnaire, but you in the research design, but you can provide a brief discussion on the type of questions in your research design section. I have provided a tentative report structure. I will suggest that you follow this structure. So first of all is executive summary. This part is apparently easy but little bit tricky because you have to precisely summarize your whole report. So first of all, you should write down what the report is all about, then what method of analysis you have followed, what data, sampling design, what are the key findings you have derived, and on the basis of these key findings, what recommendations you are providing, and if there is any limitation. So you have to cover all these points, but definitely very precisely. Introduction section should provide a summary of the case study. That means what are the problems or what are the situations Visa Incorporated is facing. Once again, research design, you are familiar with this section because you had a research design section in first assignment. So in research design section, first of all, you should write down what research approach has been followed. For example, survey research, provide a justification. Then you should talk about sampling design, and their justifications. And you also should provide a discussion on the target population. Also, you should talk about some ethical consideration because since you will be surveying, human element are involved. So you should write down some points of ethical considerations, and your discussion should be supported by credible academic references. Hypothesis development section, as I already have mentioned, for each of the 5 questions, you should have a set of null and alternate hypotheses. Be very clear, be very precise, and very specific when you write down your hypothesis. Statistical technique and justification. You should write down what statistical technique you are using to test a hypothesis. Please note that to justify your statistical technique, make sure that you mention 2 points. First of all, what you are doing. For example, you are comparing mean customer satisfaction between male and female, or average number of card fraud experienced by male and female. So write down what you are doing. And then on the basis of what you are doing, what measurement scale, what the data is, and combining these 2 discussions, you need to mention that what statistical technique you are using. You also can provide references to justify your statistical technique. Then result, statistical and non-statistical interpretation. Here, you should first of all copy your result from Excel, paste it in Word file, and then provide a statistical and non-statistical interpretation. In this example, you have seen that I have provided a separate subheadings for statistical and non-statistical interpretation. So in statistical interpretation, you should write down whether you accept or reject your hypothesis. Categorically write it down that we accept our null hypothesis or we reject our null hypothesis based on this argument. Then in the non-statistical interpretation, you provide a non-statistical explanation. For example, if you reject your null hypothesis that mean income level between male and female is same, you reject this null hypothesis. In non-statistical interpretation, you need to write down, well, we reject our null hypothesis, so mean income level is not same between the male and female, and you also need to write down which one is higher. For example, average income level of female is higher than that of male. Analysis and summary of the statistical results. This part is also a little bit tricky, and my previous experience says that students sometimes cannot do well in this section. So keep it in mind in result statistical and non-statistical interpretation section, you already have provided your result and your discussion of the results. So don't repeat all of them in your analysis and summary of the results section once again. In this section, you should provide a coherent analysis of your result and should derive key findings that relates to the key research issues. I remind you that this case study has 2 key research issues. Here, your report should focus on 2 key issues: the current experience of personal fraud, that's one, and the strategy or strategies that would be most effective to increase customer satisfaction. So when you provide the analysis and summary of your result, you should combine all of your findings, derive some key results, and try to relate them to these key research issues. Finally, recommendation. You need to provide some substantive recommendation based on your findings. Keep it in mind that each and every recommendation should be related to one of your key findings. And as usual, references should follow a peer 6 referencing style. In first assignment, I have seen that some of you couldn't follow APS6 referencing style properly. So I will suggest that you visit our university library website, get the APS6 referencing manual, and be careful and be mindful when you write down your references. Keep it in mind, when we say that we are following a particular reference style, we actually need to literally follow the uppercase, lowercase, letters, comma, full stop, inverted commas, dates, everything. We have to literally follow everything. So I hope you will be careful relating to this. A few sentences about your data. If you look at your data, you can see this is your question number 1, where you are actually need to segregate that who experienced your card fraud and who did not. And then you need to do the rest of your analysis. And for some of the respondents, for example, here you can see 999999. So it means that these are actually not applicable, not applicable. So as I understand that, first of all, you should get rid of these non-applicable responses. So you have a clean data to do your rest of your analysis. And one final point is when you decide your statistical technique, first of all, you carefully look at the question here. Carefully look at the question. Try to understand what you are doing. For example, here you are comparing number of card fraud experience by male and female. So try to understand what variables you have. For example, here you have number of card fraud. That's the main variable, and you are dividing it into 2 subgroups, male and female. Then you go back to your data and look at what is the measurement scale of the data. Is it ratio, interval, nominal, or ordinal? Because you know that what you are testing and what is the measurement scale of your data are the determinants of what statistical technique you are following. I will be uploading, I think I already have uploaded a document, if not that I will be, where I have prepared a shortcut guidelines to choose a particular statistical technique. So I will suggest that you go through this guideline, try to relate the question and measurement scale with the guideline I have given so that you can choose a right statistical technique. So that's all I wanted to say in this video. But you are welcome to post your questions in the group discussion board or in the weekly discussion forum, or you can send me email. So best of luck to all of you. Thank you.